I've been teaching lately about disconnection, and so we're going to look at how we disconnect from ourselves and why we do that, and then how to reconnect with ourselves today. So there's so many ways that we disconnect, and there's, everyone's unique in their own style and strategy for that. So I want to just kind of run down the list and look at various strategies, we could say, or tactics for how we might disconnect and not even realize we're doing it. So a disconnection is like a way to kind of relieve yourself maybe of some stress. It's a way to not have to face something that's in front of you. So a disconnection might be, a way that you disconnect might be to distract yourself. It may be that you get really busy. It may be that you overwork or overthink. So anytime you're kind of way up in your head, you're not totally here with yourself anymore, right? I'm going to look at my list so I don't forget, because there's a lot of options for how to disconnect. Overanalyzing, worrying, spacing out, overeating, multitasking. Like I said, keeping busy would be, so you're always got something on your plate, right? You're never stopping, go on the go. Starting a fight, criticizing yourself, judging yourself, stuffing your feelings, another way to disconnect. Getting highly high or intoxicated. Now that can be a way to connect or disconnect. So none of these are just straight across the board that if you do them, then you disconnect. I want to make that clear. But let's look at some more to break it down a little bit. Pressuring yourself to do more. Pretending everything is fine when it's not. Getting lost on your phone or your computer with social media, watching a ton of TV, Netflix, or doing a lot of gaming. And I'd love to hear from you if there are other ways that you disconnect. So go ahead and put that in the comments. Let me know how you find that you disconnect from yourself. It could be sex, right? It could be exercise. It could be writing. It could be there's so many things, right? So I just want to say that none of these things on their own is inherently a way to disconnect. In fact, we're going to look at the ways that we can connect, and the same will be true with those. But the point is that if you do something as a kind of a way to get out of yourself, as a way to escape, or you do something maybe so often or so much of the time that you're kind of no longer aware of yourself, no longer present with yourself, then that's what I'm calling disconnection. I did have a question today about dissociation, and she said, is that the same thing as disconnection? And I'm going to say not necessarily. So I think dissociation, which is like a psychological term, is a kind of disconnection, but when you dissociate, but when you disconnect, you're not necessarily dissociating. Okay. And there's a whole like gradient of dissociation. So you can dissociate when you're driving home, right? And you're not at all paying attention to what you're doing, and you got yourself home because you've done it hundreds of thousands of times, and you didn't have to pay attention to the turns and the stops because you do it automatically. That's a kind of a mild dissociation. But so you could call that a form of disconnection, but I don't think all disconnection is actually dissociation. So hopefully that's clear. Thanks for being here, Rachel. And anyone else who shows up, go ahead and leave a comment, or feel free to ask a question if you would like some clarity about what's going on. And if you are just joining, by the way, and you're interested in a more inclusive group for women who are wanting support in their relationships, I have that connected to this page, and it's called the Healthy Relationships Sisterhood. And I would be so happy to see you there. We are very welcoming and friendly, and it's a safe space, and it's a closed group. So go ahead and find us there if you're interested in getting more individual support. And I'm very active in that group, offering my coaching. So So we are talking about how you disconnect, and I just listed off a bunch of things. And if you're just getting here, which I know some of you are, you can see one of my recent posts on this page on Conscious Thriving Relationships, where I do have a list of common ways that people disconnect. And I've just added a few things. And if you have some other things that you want to add, please put that in the comments, because it will help others to see as well. And we can learn, we can always learn from each other. So as I've been sharing, and if you saw my last video last week in the Healthy Relationship Sisterhood, or I may have posted that here as well, I believe I did, that was all about kind of the why behind disconnection, why we disconnect from ourselves. So I want to just run through some of that briefly here, and then we'll talk about how to reconnect. So why we might have these habits of disconnecting is, there's numerous reasons. Like I said earlier, it could be that you're needing some form of escape, that what you're facing in front of you is too intense, too much to manage, that you feel uncomfortable, you feel scared, you feel too much emotion or energy running through your system. And so you need a way to kind of shut that down. And like I talked about in the last video, and please go watch that and let me know if you have questions on that. When we have really early trauma in our lives, especially in utero or in the first 6 months of life, and that trauma is such that either some kind of shock trauma, like you could have had an in utero surgery, right? I know someone close to me who's had that, where there was like a blood transfusion in utero. That's so intense, like a needle getting poked into a fetus, right? You could have had your mother in surgery while she was pregnant with you. So there could have been some kind of shock that happened to your system, an accident. There could have been a lot of arguing in the family. There could have been your mother, was rejecting you, didn't want to have a baby. Any of that would be felt by the fetus. There could have been a feeling of lack of safety in the family, whether you were in utero or early in your life. There could have been a lot of arguing when you were born. You could have had an absent parent, a parent who wasn't available either physically or emotionally for you to cater to your needs, which you absolutely need when you aren't completely dependent as an infant. So there's so many reasons that you could have experienced some kind of early life trauma, and I'm saying especially in utero or the first 6 months, that causes you to feel an overwhelming anxiety in your system, to feel a lot of energy, and to not be able to manage it as an infant, right? You're so undeveloped at this point. You can't manage your own energy or emotions very well, and you need a human who is regulated to co-regulate with, and that helps you balance out your nervous system. So if you didn't have that for any one of these reasons, or if you got like so overwhelmed with emotion or energy because of a shock, then you are set up to have these connection issues later in life. So let me know if that's clear, and go ahead and comment on whatever that happened in your early life, whether it was in utero or early life. Like for me, my example that some of you have heard is, before I was 6 months, my parents went on a 2-week trip, and they took me across the country and left me with my grandparents. So they got the go ahead from the doctor that was okay to do. I got weaned, for that occasion around 5 months. So that was a big trauma for me. And so anything that happens to an infant that there's disconnection in their lives or lack of proper nurturing is going to affect their ability to connect later. So that's the background of the why you might have connection issues now. And connection issues now as an adult can show up like you isolate yourself, like you find people threatening, you don't maintain a lot of long-term relationships, you kind of hold yourself back from intimacy, you prioritize your intellectual life, you're very analytical, you like to study and spend a lot of time alone and work. You might find that emotions are, scary, or you you feel like emotions are kind of not for you, and you don't feel like you want to go there and feel any emotions. So those are some symptoms or patterns that you might find in yourself if you are a person who has early connection issues. Other things can happen later in our early life that can also affect, how we show up in our relationships and in life. So I'm not going to talk about all that right now, but just wanting to point to that early life stuff that can create these certain patterns later in life. Other things that you might notice are that you're really psychic, that you have this tendency to feel like you don't belong, or you don't feel totally in your body. You don't feel connected to your body. You don't have a lot of feelings in your body. Those are all aspects of this, what we call the connection survival style. How to reconnect with yourself is there's multiple ways, just like there's multiple ways to disconnect. So again, there's not going to be like, this is what you have to do. There's no recipe. There's just what works for you. And so I'm going to list off some things, and please chime in if you have more suggestions. So there's the classic kind of mindfulness practices that are all about connecting with yourself. Meditation, yoga, tai chi, qigong, any kind of like martial art, especially aikido is more mindful, slow movement practices, conscious dancing, breathing practices. So restorative yoga, all the different types of yoga, originally were designed to help you reconnect with yourself, to help you know yourself, to help you kind of come inside your body. So when I say connection, that's what I mean. I mean practices that are about self-awareness, increasing self-awareness, increasing your awareness of your body. So a great way to become self-aware is to notice what's happening inside your body. And I've shared a lot about that here on this page and in my Healthy Relationships Sisterhood Facebook group, which if you're not in there and you're a woman wanting support with your relationships, go ahead and find us there, and I'll leave a link with the video. But so I'm going to list off some more things, and then we'll talk about, kind of the pitfalls of those. So self-touch, I've got to get myself back to the page. So self-touch would mean like just simple things like touching different parts of your body to kind of to feel yourself. Okay, I'm here, like here's my bones, here's my muscles. Getting aware of your 5 senses. So opening up your ears to what sounds am I hearing, opening up your eyes, looking around, naming some things that you see in the space around you, the clock, the computer, the tree outside. These are all ways to kind of get present. So when I say connection, I mean self-awareness, and I also mean present in this very moment. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense to you. Leave a comment and engage with me, because I love that. And it will also help other people who show up later and see the video. So how to get present. Now I've listed off many things, and some people like getting a massage, right? That's another way to get really present when someone else touches you. That's so wonderful. And I also want to say that there's so many things you can do for yourself just on your own. So right now, like as you're listening to me, you could be tuning in more to sounds and the other senses, like, you're hearing my voice, but maybe there's other sounds in the space around you. Maybe you tune into the sense of touch, your butt on the chair, your feet on the floor. Maybe you let your eyes open to the distant scenery and then come back to the close-up scenery. So playing with the visual field a little bit. Any scents in the room, if you've got incense burning or there's flowers around you, you might smell something. So all the senses are something that you can be tapping into throughout your day. So what I want to let you know is that to become present and connected, it doesn't have to be this thing that you do to set aside 5 or 10 minutes or a half hour or an hour. It can happen throughout the day. And this is what's so great about when you learn meditation, and you learn to pay attention to yourself, and you learn to watch your thoughts, which is a wonderful practice for reconnection, that you can start to bring that into your daily life. You can start to have this self-awareness as you're walking down the street, as you're having a conversation, when you're in a business meeting, when you're working on your computer, you know, the feel of your fingers on the keyboard, the sounds of, you know, the fingers on the keyboard. So there's so many ways to bring this presence, this reconnection into your life. And I also wanted to say that the thing that we often think about some of these practices that I mentioned, yoga, meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong, you know, breathing practice, mindfulness practice, is that just because they're, you know, they were geared towards giving you a sense of presence and connection to yourself doesn't mean you're doing them in that way, right? Because a lot of us, especially in the West, I want to say, are doing yoga as a way to disconnect. So you can do yoga and be listening to music and be thinking about your day and not paying attention to what's happening in your body, forgetting to breathe, you know, so you can be doing yoga not mindfully as well as mindfully. And same with meditation. You can be doing meditation, planning your day, thinking about what you're going to make for lunch, you know, kind of complaining in your mind about all that's not working, what a bad meditator I am. And I'm not going to judge what's meditation and what's not, but we could say that some of that is not actually being really present with yourself. So part of a, you know, a more self-aware meditation practice would be to have that observer online, to that part of you that's like kind of, I think of it as kind of backing up, that part of you that's aware of what's happening in your thoughts. So it's not like you're supposed to have no thoughts, because that's pretty impossible for 99.9% of the people, but you have developed over time with meditation a capability to observe your thoughts, to have this other part of your mind that goes, oh, I was just getting totally distracted, or I was just off in a fantasy, or wow, I forgot to notice my breathing. And so there's a part of you that reminds you to come back to the present. And so that's a really important quality to cultivate in meditation, whether it's a formal sitting meditation or a walking meditation, or simply a mindfulness while you're washing dishes, or while you're driving your car. You can be bringing that into your daily activities. So any comments or questions about that? I'd love to hear from you. And let me know, you know, what's your favorite mindfulness practice if you have one. Go ahead and put that in the comments, and then people can learn from each other when they come and watch the video later too. Okay, so that's pretty much what I wanted to share, and so we'll keep it short. Again, if you're not in the Healthy Relationships Sisterhood Facebook group, go ahead and find that at the link I'm going to leave with this video, and join us to get some more support around your relationships. And I will also leave a link to my free guide. I call it the 3-step plan to the biggest relationship mistakes. It's super helpful, short, and supportive for difficult conversations and stuff that comes up in relationships. And that's it for now. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for being here. I so appreciate being able to connect with you in this way. And please share the video. If you found this useful, press that share button, send it to your friends. This page is open to the public, so anyone can see the video here. Please like the page, comment, let me know if you got some value. I'd love to know. It's such a pleasure to share this information with you. Thanks so much. Namaste.